Okay, YouTube family, friends, Rev It Up Car Fanatic Productions. Show you what we're working with. They're by a 2015 GMC Buick Encore. It has the same 1.4 liter 4-cylinder Ecotec turbocharged engine as my Chevy Trax. This is nothing more than a Chevy Trax, but Buick just stepped up and made it a little more chrome package deal here and there, the LED lights on the mirror and all that stuff. 18-inch rims on Continental tires, but basically all the same features with the Chevy Trax, except, you know, a little chrome. Seats are nice, black. This is 94,000 miles. We got it for 6,100. You can see the door things are the same. Even the way you switch your oil life, and you want to monitor your gas mileage and all that stuff. Cruise control, stereo stuff here, right here. But their LED screen infotainment system is here, and mine is here. So they got theirs up here. But anyway, what we're doing with this, it's got the same 6-speed transmission. We're doing front, rear brakes and rotors, and we are going to put in a coil pack with 4 spark plugs, and we're changing the rear O2 sensor. And Monday we're driving it up to where we bought the car from, because as you can see, we got a wheel bearing, bad wheel bearing. This wheel is not supposed to wiggle like that at all. So he's going to put that wheel bearing in for us on Monday morning. So I'm just getting the brakes and stuff out of the way, and I already rotated the tires. So I'll show you how to reset your tire pressure monitor system so the tires are in their correct location. But I'm gonna show you one side of the front brake, and tomorrow I'll get to the rear brake. I'll show you one side of the rear brake, then we'll do the tune up, and then we'll do the oxygen sensor, and then we'll do the getting the TPS right in the right position. So we got the car jacked up, we got chocks behind it, and we're going to blow these front tires off, and we're going to do one. I'm going to show you one side of the brake. So this would be a Chevy Trax. It would be the same for a Chevy Cruze. What is this? A little small Chevy car that has these little 1.4 engines in them. I can't remember the name of them, but one of them, all these little small cars, they're about the same with the brakes. But definitely for the Chevy Trax and the Buick Encore, the brakes and everything is going to be the same. Okay, so on these, there are 10mm bolts for the caliper, and I'm using my ratchet wrench on these. So you got one on the top, one on the bottom. Loose them. Pull this caliper out of the way. We'll let it ride right around there. Now we got 2 3/4 bolts to take off the caliper holder. So we're going to do that right now, and it's easier if you face the wheel towards you. So the old pads, just take a screwdriver, stick them in there, and bring them out. And these are about half worn, so you know, good time to change them. Just bought a new car, get everything changed. Okay, and I got my 3/4 ratchet here. I already broke these loose, so I'm just backing them out. Back the bottom one out here. Okay, so you got the brake caliper holder off. Now is just a little screwdriver here, and this was already pre-loosened, so I got one of these little things you could hit. Forgot what you call these things, but it actually would break it loose. It's an impact driver that's specially made for things like this. Okay, so old rotor off. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna take and I'm gonna clean up this section here, and so you can tell it's got a bad wheel hub, because that's not supposed to wiggle at all. So but anyway, that's not my problem. The people that we bought the car from, they're going to take care of this part. So I'm going to go ahead and shine this up, and I'll get the brakes ready and the new rotors. So basically all I took was my cordless drill with one of these wire wheels and went in between the hub like this here. And it's a good idea to go across the threads too, get them nice and cleaned up, and you know, on the outside of here. That way the tire won't stick when you try and take it off. And then what I take and do, I put a little bit of Never-Seez. Doesn't take a whole bunch, because this stuff is really good. Take a little bit of Never-Seez and go around the hub there and on the back of here like that. So you go around the hub like that, and then just put a little bit here, 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 and there, and that'll stop that axle from sticking on there. So now we're going to get the new hub, and we got new hardware. So we're going to plug these out with the screwdriver here. Throw those away, and then you take your new hardware, you put grease on the bottom of what you just cleaned, and then you want to put some grease everywhere that the brake rides on. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, and we got that ready, so we can put this aside. And I already took these off. You guys know how I do that. You just pull this back and pull these out, clean the old grease off of it, put new grease back on it, stick it back in, and make sure that they, you know, travel up and down pretty easy. And that's how you lube them. So I got that out of the way. So next is I'm going to take, since these are single pistons, I'm going to find my single piston retractor here. It looks like this. And I'm going to turn that like that. I want to get one of the old brake pads and put it in there. And we're going to set our tool in here. And then simply just twist the piston until it retracts in there like that. I want to get it down better, just like that. And we just twist it, and the piston goes in. Go nice and easy. And I'm going to pop the hood to check the brake fluid level, because I don't want brake fluid bleeding out. It comes out of the top and the air is going to get in, then I'll have to bleed the brakes. But on the first one, it doesn't matter. But when you get to the second one, then when you start doing the rear, you'll start running into those problems. So we'll get this first one done, and that squeezes in pretty good. It's all the way tight. Okay, we can take our tool out, take the old brake thing off. Now again, I'm gonna take a wire brush, and I'm gonna clean all up around in here and in here, and this little metal portion right here. I can't do it with one hand, but that's what I normally do. So then we lube around this metal part here, and then we want to put some brake lube right back here, and this stop any rattling. So we got that done. So next thing we're going to do, we got everything cleaned, ready to go. So now we're ready to put our rotor in, and these rotors normally come with shipping grease on them. and which is, I can see it does. And what I normally do is turn it backwards and get the bolt lines lined up, and I'll use this as a parts cleaner, and I spray my brake cleaner on here, and then I get a towel and I clean the grease off. Then you want to spin it around, and you want to locate that area where the screw goes in, which is right there. So you want to make sure you got this going right to where it's supposed to go, and right where the screw ends up at. And then spray my brake clean to get the grease off of that. Take my nut and get this screwed in. So this will hold the brake caliper, the rotor on, while I put the brake caliper in place. This is what this is for, and it doesn't have to be extra tight. Just get it nice and snug, and then, you know, we get the grease that's off of here. Okay, now we're ready for the rotor, the brake caliper holder. So we want to take that, get this back in place. These bolts already have the thread sealant on it, so we want to line it up and get them in place. And it's good to have this handy dandy ratcheting wrench. See if I can, there we go. And I like to run them down in there nice and easy. Then we go with our big boy, and we want to tighten these bad boys up really snug. And this is 3/4. I'm gonna need 2 hands for that, so we'll be right back. And you want to coat the ears of the brakes with brake lube, and then you want to commence to put the brakes inside the tangs. And then you get your next brake. And you do the same, and then you just install them where they go. So you got your brakes in, you got your piston pushed in. You want to make sure these things are all the way back. Your slide pins, make sure your hose isn't tangled up, and the new one should slide right over. push them in. Push the sliding pins in. Now I have to go get my Loctite, which is over here, to use for the 10mm bolts so those don't come loose. And I find my bolts, and I like to put some Loctite on the threads. We'll come back to that. So just a little bit of Loctite around the threads, and that'll ensure that they won't back out. And we want to get this lined up and get it started. And then get the bottom one going, which is down here. Get back in there. There we go. Got the bottom one started. Get the top one started. You get our 10mm. And we just can turn it by hand until it goes in good enough. Or you can kind of work with it like this. Put your hand in the middle of it, and it ratchets it back and comes forward, and she tightens. Okay, now we want to put the same amount of pressure on the other side. Get it nice and tight. Nice and tight. And she's nice and tight. Then we take our old brake rotor, throw it in there, get her folded up out of the way, get that out of the way. Alright, sliding pins slide. So we want to turn our wheel this way, and I like to spin the rotor and use a towel to get any brake grease that might have got on the rotor, and it looks pretty good. So everything's nice and tight, so we can go ahead and put our wheel back on this side, and then we'll start the other side. And don't forget, when you crank the engine, you can even do it before it, pump the brakes to get the fluid back up to the front, or else you won't be able to stop. So remember to pump the brakes. Okay, and that's how easy it is to change the front brake pads on a 2015 through 2021 or 2022, at least 2020 GMC Envoy, and the track. And change the brake hardware out, and we're gonna throw this tire back on. Okay, YouTube family, fans, Rev with Rev It Up Car Fanatic Productions. We promise you the next day. Well medicated, well rested. We're doing the rear rotor and the brakes on this 2015 Buick Encore. So let me show you here. We're going to use our impact driver to get that screw out. Don't let this kind of threaten you, but you want to use a 13mm. Back that out. 10mm here, and then I think it's 9/16 for those two bolts. Hey gang, Rev It Up, Car Fanatic Productions. We're here in the 2015 Buick Encore, I should say. And I apologize, I didn't get a chance to show you the rear brakes. And I did not show you doing the coil pack and the 4 plugs. But that was a simple job to do anyway. And the brakes wasn't too much different from the front, except you need a cube on the rear brake to twist the rotor in and make sure the 2 tangs on the piston caliper is lined up parallel, so the brake rotor will slide in and the brakes will actually work. And then when you get in, you know, there's really no need to pump the rear brakes, but you can pump them, they'll come back up. So we had a P0302 code, which was a misfire in cylinder 1. Then we had a P1071, I believe it was, or 3, which was, I think it was a 3, which was a P0173, I think, which was a downstream O2 sensor. So those were the check engine codes, the diagnostic trouble codes that was in the vehicle. So I'm in it. I'll let you look at the dash now. The only lights are on is the traction control and the ABS sensor. Remember when I wiggled the right front wheel that it wobbled? You heard a lot of clicking, clanging noise. Well, that bearing is really bad in there. So I'm driving it up to the dealer where we purchased the car from, and he is going to put the bearing in this morning. But other than that, no check engine lights. The brakes work fine, even though that wheel bearing is the car drives pretty good. There's no wiggling. I'm doing 53 right now, and it's driving like a normal car. It drives just as good as mine, handles well. But when you hit the brakes, sometimes the ABS might come on, and you get a little tiny wiggle in the right front tire because that wheel hub is loose, or maybe going over bumps. But other than that, it rides fine. And we're at 95,000 miles, so not a bad car, and not a bad purchase price. So we'll talk to you guys when we get this fixed. All right.